Now, one of the items that I had marked down that you said you had some information about was about Little Lynn.
I'd like to talk about Little Lynn because she's very important. I'm probably going to tell you some things that nobody has ever written, I have not written about, and probably never will. Those who don't know who Little Lynn is, Karen Bennett, and she was a Jack Ruby employee as a stripper. She was about 18 years old when he first hired her, and about the time of the assassination, so she was a very young lady. And he's the one that Ruby sent a money order to on the morning just before he shot Oswald. And this particular act of sending a money order from Western Union, which was right next door to the Dallas Police headquarters, was his alibi, saying that it was not a premeditated act on his part to kill Oswald. And I think it's interesting, and probably a lot of people don't know this, I call it an alibi establishing Western Union MoneyGram, because here's what Sheriff Decker said when he was at Jack Ruby's trial, and he heard Ruby talking about how he had established his presence in the Western Union office 11 minutes before shooting Oswald. And I'm just going to read this. He said he was sending money to a lady dancer in Fort Worth who was down on her luck. Decker recalled a jailhouse interview with a master of alibi who laid out the Western Union alibi for him. It goes like this: go into a Western Union office the day before you wish to establish your alibi, ask the operator for an application to send a message or money, as the case may be, leave with the Western Union form blank, fill it out with the next day's date, and on the following day have an accomplice take the form with your signed name back to the Western Union office to be sent. Later, when the Western Union operators ask if he remembers you, he will acknowledge that you did come into the office, but the date difference will not be remembered. Decker smiled to himself as Ruby's attorney used that to keep Ruby from having been accused of premeditated murder. So that's where Little Lynn kind of fits in. And when the FBI went to see her on Sunday afternoon after Ruby had shot Oswald, he found a hysterical young lady who was just going crazy, and she said that she felt like Lee Harvey Oswald, Jack Ruby, and other people were involved in a conspiracy to assassinate John Kennedy, and that she'd be killed if she gave information to the authorities. And that was all that was ever really said by Little Lynn about a conspiracy. And so after she was questioned, she disappeared. Late 1964, she disappears and was later reported to be dead. When I found that she wasn't dead in the early 90s, I was able to get to her and talk with her and find out some information that I think is kind of staggering as my best description of it. I talked to her boy, and he said that she was in a protection program and that they had hidden her for her own protection, and that he had moved around all of his life, and that she lived in the country with several dogs and with black curtains taped down on the windows, and that she was scared all of her life about it. And I was supposed to talk with her. Had scheduled a meeting with her where I would meet her at the airport. I would fly into the airport and meet with her. She was going to reveal some things to me. Make a long story short, I waited and waited for her to come, and she didn't show up. And finally, I got a phone call from a strange lady who said that Karen would not be meeting with me, that she couldn't ever meet with me. So I flew out of there and forgot all about it. It wasn't until she passed away here 3 or 4 years ago that her sister finally told me what had happened, and she told me that someone had shot at her as she was coming to meet with me, scared her back into her hole, so to speak. And I said, well, I asked the sister, what did she know, and so forth. And she said she was going to tell you about how she was sort of, what she called it was arm ornament for Jack Ruby, and she went to parties and to places with him where men like Carlos Marcello and Santos Traficante met with Ruby, and she overheard conversations she was not supposed to hear. And so for that reason, she was scared out of her wits, so to speak. And so we'll never know probably what little Len heard or knew unless she has put it down in writing. And I've heard from sources that she may have done that. But she's dead now. She won't be talking.
I read one report that when she was going to see Jack Ruby at the trial, she was arrested for bringing in a handgun.
Yeah, she was scared to death, and she had a handgun in her purse. That's the way she spent the rest of her life, pretty much. Her son said he was in more places when he was living with his mother than he was in when he was a cross-country truck driver. They just skipped around from place to place. Fascinating story from a fascinating human being that's no longer around.
Well, thanks for sharing. And what you get from these anecdotes and stories is that it doesn't lead to a lone assassin, disgruntled Marxist with a lucky shot. All that does not happen.
They can't afford to look at the facts. I believe that an honest, intelligent person who looks at the facts, open-minded, cannot come away with anything but that there was a conspiracy in the killing of the president. And that's saying a whole lot, because you've got to either these people are not intelligent, or they're not honest, or they're propagandists, they're liars, they have a drum to beat, so to speak, in this whole thing.